What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to Layla for her contribution to the channel, and I want to give a shout out to Larry for his contribution to the channel as well. And I saw your video idea. I do agree that number one, they do need to reopen an investigation into his murder, and I will do a video on his assassination on the Patreon. It'll probably be after the election because I'm kind of focusing on that right now. But after the election, I will definitely do a video on that subject matter on the Patreon. So I want to thank again you guys for your contributions, and I want to thank everybody that supports me on YouTube and the Patreon. All right. So this guy right here is a new entry. All right. He's the only person who wasn't on this list at all before. This is Klay Thompson. Now I wrestled with where to put him at, but this feels about right. Okay, this feels about right putting him at the number 4 spot for right now. Number one, he's a exceptionally gifted basketball player. Um, he's not the greatest defensive player. He's not the biggest guy. Um, he's not a physically dominant player. Um, but he is right now, in my opinion, the greatest potential offensive weapon in the league. Um, until he got injured, I thought Curry was going to lead the league in scoring. That didn't happen. He only played 5 games, um, you know, and he didn't shoot the ball particularly well. Outside the free throw line, though, he did go 26 of 26 from the line to further pad his record for free throw percentage. Um, but Curry offensively, if he's in a situation, I'll put it like this: if there's anybody in the league that could score 100 points in a game in the right situation, it's Curry. Now, Curry, I don't think is the type of guy that goes out there and is consciously trying to think about, I'm going to shoot the ball so many different many times. Look, he has his limitations. When there aren't other offensive threats on the floor, like if you remember when Kevin Durant went down and then Klay got hurt, hobbled, and then Klay was out, Toronto kind of did their best to try to chase him off the court, even though he did chase him off the line, excuse me, even though he did have that 47-point game in the finals in 2019, Curry. But when he's in a situation where Klay is out there and maybe another offensive threat, when the spacing is right for the Warriors, I think there's a possibility that this guy could score. Like, I'm amazed that he doesn't have a 60-point game yet. But he's just not a volume scorer. He's not a type of guy that constantly goes out there and tries to take 35, 40 shots a game. That's just not in his mental makeup, so to speak. He's the type of guy, you know, that has a certain role. But I will say this about Curry: he's the greatest shooter I think I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of great shooters. I've seen Reggie Miller and Ray Allen. I remember Drazen Petrovic. I've seen guys that excel at putting the ball on the floor, putting the ball in the basket, excuse me. but I've never seen anybody shoot the way that he shoots. Not that consistent. Not even Clay. I think Clay is a better clutch performer, like in elimination games, fourth quarter, situations. Clay is one of the best clutch performers I've ever seen, but Clay is a little bit more inconsistent offensively. Curry is phenomenal. He's the greatest 3-point shooter I've ever seen. He's probably the best shooter I've ever seen. Um, Despite being only 6'3", 190 pounds, he might have been 175, 180 when he first got in the league. Um, Look, he shoots over 47% from the floor for his career, somewhere around 47%. Ray Allen shot 45%. Reggie, I think, shot 47%. Steve Nash shot an unbelievable 49%. Steph shoots 43.5% from three-point range. Ray Allen shot 40% on the nose. Reggie Miller 39.5%. And I think Steve Nash shot 42.5%. Steph Curry is the all-time leader in free throw percentage, 90.6%. In fact, he led the league in free throw percentage 4 different times, and he probably was on his way to leading the league in free throw percentage again this year if he didn't get injured. Number two on that list is Steve Nash at a little bit over 90.4%. Mark Price is third at 90.3%. And then, even though he didn't take as many free throw attempts as the rest of these guys, so he didn't qualify, but Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf shot 90.5% from the foul line. And there's a lot of similarity between Abdul-Rauf and Curry. Uh, Abdul-Rauf was just not as consistent as Curry. But even from his days in Davidson, you could tell that Curry was going to be special. I remember Curry when he was a little kid back in the 90s when his father Dale was playing. Um, Dale wasn't as great a player as Steph, but Dale was known for being one of the great shooters in the NBA. Dale was on that '97 Hornets team with Glenn Rice, okay, that still holds the record to this day for highest 3-point percentage collectively for a team, as far as the player is concerned. The '97 Hornets shot over 42% from three that year. That record still stands. A lot of that was because of the shooting exploits of both Glenn Rice that year, who shot 47% from three, and also Dale Curry. And Steph inherited that shooting gene from his father and then some. And he's an even better player than his father could ever dream of. Although Dale was underrated too. Until Kemba Walker passed him, I think that last year he was with the Hornets, Dale Curry was the all-time leading scorer for the Hornets. You know what I'm saying? But when Steph first arrived in the NBA, I think his rookie year, he averaged 17.5 points per game. And when he first got there, I think the leading scorer of that team was Monta Ellis. Monte was averaging 24, 25 points a game. But there was something interesting beginning to happen in the NBA at that time. There was something interesting. Um, Analytics. Analytics was starting to really be pushed as far as uh, front offices, guys that were being hired, and the way things were, the things that used to go on in the NBA, and the league is always about trends and whatever. And what was going on is that guys like Monte Ellis and Rhett Westbrook, and whatnot, those types of players, they were falling out of favor slowly but surely. Guys that were slashers and their game was primarily about athleticism, the Desmond Masons and whatnot, those types of guys. Darius Miles. The league was no longer looking at those guys. They were looking more at what the analytics was telling them, and that is the best way to go about winning a championship and building a team is through shooting efficiency. Outside shooting, layups. The mid range, you know, no, that's not as efficient. Athleticism, these guys are great to watch, aesthetically, but they get injured and they don't have the shelf life of shooters. So, and just look at what's happened since Curry got into the league. When the 3-point shot was first implemented in 79 80, um, that shot wasn't used much. Maybe on average, less than one attempt per game for each team. Dr. Duncanstein, Daryl Griffith, and then later on Larry Bird helped to popularize it more. Then you started seeing these 3-point specialists more, the Trent Tuckers and the Craig Hodges. Then it maybe became more like 6, 7 attempts per game in the late 80s. Then, by the mid 90s, it was more like 13, 14 attempts per game. It stagnated for a while, all the way into the Kobe Gasol Lakers era, late 2000s. It was about 16, 17 attempts per game. But in the 10 years since then, the age of Curry, that number has almost doubled from 17 3-point attempts per game on average for each team to now over 33 attempts, close to 34 attempts per team. And why is that? Because of the 3-point shot being popularized initially by this man right here, Steph Curry. So while it was already an ongoing uh, uh, process as far as the shot being used more, Curry did speed that process up. Did James Harden have anything to do with it? Maybe a little bit, but more. But initially, it was this man, and you know, not only is he a volume shooter, as I said, he makes them at a really high clip. So with the Warriors, like I said, with analytics and whatnot, even though Monta Ellis was putting up points, um, the way to go would be to have shooters. So soon his backcourt mate switched from being Monta Ellis to being Klay Thompson, who was a more valuable player anyway because he could shoot and he proved to be a great one-on-one defender as well as a great help defender. And then you had Draymond Green. All right. Now I don't like Draymond Green that much. Y'all know I don't like him. Uh, but I will say this: in this era with small ball and the way the game is played now, you could have a role for a guy like Draymond Green, who 20 years ago may have struggled in the NBA because he's a tweener. He lacks the foot speed to be able to stay up with smaller guards. But in that era, he would have struggled because they would have tried to put him against the larger 4s and 5s, the 6'10 Shawn Kemps, 6'11 Rasheed Wallace's, the centers. He wouldn't have been able to do well against those guys. Against Charles Barkley, he would have been about the right size, but Charles Barkley was as strong as an ox. So Charles Barkley still would have bullied him. So it would have been an issue with how they looked at him. They would have just looked at him as a body. Now they look at these guys. And they said, well, okay, he's 6'5", but what can we, you know, what can we do with him? You know what I'm saying? So this is a totally different era. You can have a guy like that facilitate the offense. He wouldn't have had a role like that uh, 15, 20 years ago. So, um, but yeah, they started building this team around him. Mark Jackson was brought aboard, and I don't think he gets enough credit for having to help build this Warriors team. Now, you know, he wasn't there for the championship ride, but he was there at the beginning, the genesis of what this team ultimately will become, putting the pieces together. Okay, and where Mark Jackson started off, Steve Kerr, who is a nice guy, but I don't think that he really, had much input as far as putting this team together. He just was coming along in the final stages of this team getting to that process of being a championship team. But I know one thing: without Steph Curry, this team would have won none of those championships. And Steph Curry, in their first year, the Warriors won 67 games, which set a franchise record for most wins in a season for them. And that 2015 team went against LeBron James. LeBron James had just came back to Cleveland. That Cavaliers team was undermanned, and LeBron James put up a phenomenal performance in the finals. Okay, um, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough as the Warriors were able to win in six. Okay, they won in six, and they won their first championship in 40 years. But it was the next season, the 2016 season, that is so memorable. They won 73 games, which broke the record of the Chicago Bulls. Steph Curry won his second consecutive league MVP. All right, and it's the only unanimous MVP in the history of this NBA. He won the scoring championship. He led the league in steals. And to the best of my knowledge, I think the only players, let me look it up before I say this. The only players that come to mind that have led the NBA in steals, I have a little bit of a cold. The only players I can think of that have led the league in both scoring and steals in the same season, I believe, are Iverson and Jordan. Okay. And James Harden did it too. James Harden, I think, did it too. Okay, so I was wrong on that one. So, know, but yeah, Steph Curry um, had a historic season. He established a record that will never be broken, in my opinion, when he broke his own record. A record that he had broken before he broke it the last time. In 2012, 2013, Curry uh, set a record for made threes in the season, 272, which broke the prior record, which was 269 by Ray Allen back in the 2006 season, I believe, with the Supersonics. A couple years later on, Curry broke his own record with 286, but in 2016 he made 402 three-point field goals, and it's the fact that he's so prolific with his shot making, especially outside shooting, and the clip that he makes it, and the difficulty that makes him so amazing. Look, there have been guys that are catch and shoot guys. There are some guys that you know can hug that line and make threes. But the fact that he's able to shoot from such range with ease, um, and the quickness of his release, like I've seen this guy shoot what was, I guess, a 48, 50-foot shot. I see him shoot it with the ease of a jump shot. Most guys, when they shoot from deep, they sort of heave it up. He shoots it like it's a jump shot. You know what I'm saying? It's really no different from his regular normal form. And he shoots it with such an arc that it's difficult to block it. He shoots with such quick release. He's releasing the ball as he's going up with it. And like I said, he can shoot off the dribble, catch and shoot. Um, he can shoot over a double team. He's amazing. The only little weakness I see in his scoring and his shooting, the only little weakness I've ever seen is he's a little bit inconsistent at times from the mid range, a little bit. Um, but that's about it. Some seasons he shoots it very very well, but then there's some seasons he could be a little inconsistent from mid range. But other than that, he can score in the paint, as we've seen. Even though he's this little guy and he seems like an annoying gnat that you should be able to swat, but he can score in the paint. He's phenomenal, and that's the thing I like about scores. This is why I've always disliked the Antoine Walkers. I don't like those type of players. I don't like inefficient players. I don't like a guy that needs to shoot the ball 25 times to score 20 points. That you're wasting shots, you're wasting possessions to me. A guy like Curry, as little as he is, 6'3", for him to be able to shoot the way he shoots, okay, it is, you know, it's incredible. Now, this last season, he's been quiet, of course, because of the injuries. The Warriors have been quiet. But you know that they're coming back with a vengeance next year. They're going to be very motivated. So the question is, Curry right now is 32 years old. So he's now getting into that point of his career where he's starting to get on the downside a little bit, but he still has a lot of basketball left in him. So the question is now, what's next? What more is he going to accomplish? Now you look at the resume right now, he's a three-time NBA champion. Twice he led the league in MVP. Well, twice he was league MVP. Six-time NBA All-Star. Three times All-NBA first team. Twice All-NBA second team. All-NBA third team 2018. Scoring champion in 2016, as I mentioned. Steals leader that year. And that same year, he was part of the 50-40-90 club. He won the three-point contest in 2015. He was the AP Athlete of the Year in 2015. NCAA season scoring leader in 2009. And only thing left for him to do is, I guess, hopefully he'll be healthy when we have another Olympics. Is to win the Olympic gold. That's missing off his resume. But I know that he wants another championship. And I know that he wants that elusive finals MVP. He's never won that award. Um, I don't quite understand why he didn't get it in 2015, but he's never won that award. Never. So, you know, he isn't the typical point guard that you see on this list either. He doesn't. He's not exactly a floor general or a playmaker per se. He is a really good ball handler. Although sometimes, Clay can get a little sloppy at times with some of the type of passes he makes. Uh, but he plays the point guard position, so he belongs in this category. He's different from most of these point guards that are uh, in this listing. But I think number 4 is about right. And this isn't the end all for him. If he wins another championship, maybe I have to push him up a little higher. But number 4 is about right now. He's the only guy on this list that's still active. So that's why I can't really speak on him like everything is all said and done. But tell me what you guys think, man. Do you think I'm ranking him right? Do you think I should rank him higher, lower? I think it's about right. I do think the Warriors are coming back with a vengeance this year. Tell me what you guys think.